Hello, everyone. It's time for another 15-minute Feature Friday. And this week we're going to be discussing E code to C code migrations. Quick introduction. My name is Justin Hawes. I'm a senior solutions engineer for Milestone based out of Pennsylvania. And I cover the Mid Atlantic and the Great Lakes region. So, just to go over real quick what we're going to be discussing, we're going to discuss the differences between E code and C code briefly. The C code advantages, some important considerations to take into consideration while doing this migration, and then an overview of the migration and then a quick walkthrough of exactly what it entails. So what are E code and C code? So C code is basically referring to our corporate product engine and all of the products that are subsets of that. So that is Corporate, Expert, Professional Plus, Express Plus, and Essential Plus. E code refers to Express and Professional today, and the E actually refers to Enterprise, which was the top tier product at the time. So E code is it's been around forever. Basically, I think it's been around since the inception in 1998. It's just evolved. Some of us that have been around a while will remember the config files or INI files instead of XML like we have today. And the name of the file was actually servpro2.ini because the product was called Surveillance Pro back in the days. So really, this is it's a product that's been around forever. It's evolved. It's time to say goodbye. So we're moving to C code. C code's newer, more modern. Has a more flexible architecture, centralized management, a rule engine to make it easy to manage your system, and an easy migration path to move from product to product. So you could start with, say, Express Plus, and with a simple license change, go to Professional Plus or Expert, so on. So this is just a quick glance at the comparison chart of the different products. The E code products are in yellow, and these are the products that are basically being phased out. So we're slowly moving away from the E code products. They will continue to be supported. I believe it's for another 4 years or something like that. That can be checked. If that's something you're interested in, that can be checked on the Milestone lifecycle page. So you can just Google Milestone Systems product lifecycle and see exactly what the extended date of support for your particular product is. But the idea here is that we're going to have one engine, what we refer to as C code, and that'll give us additional resources internally to continue to grow and create new features and functions and bells and whistles, rather than trying to balance the resources between two different engines and do everything twice. So this is a win-win for everyone. Some important notes when doing the migration from E to C. E code and C code's recordings are not compatible with each other. So when we're doing this migration, we're basically keeping the old system in place and creating a new system, moving the configurations, but the video will not move from one system to the other. So you'll keep the old system online until the video retention has expired, and then we can take that off. We'll get into some more details on that in a little bit. In previous versions of C code, you were able to what we call slave an E code system in. So when you logged in to a C code system like Corporate or Expert, you would be able to see the slaves down the line. You wouldn't be able to manage them, but you'd be able to see them in the smart client as an end user. So we've actually removed the ability to do that, and I'm not sure exactly the reason why, other than maybe because we want to push people to migrate to C code so we don't have to continue to support the E code stuff longer. But like I said, it's a win-win. We need to get everything migrated. And the real kicker here is we've made it easy to migrate. So the migration assistant tool that we've been promising people for years now exists. And then also, if you do need to tie E code systems, you can use interconnect or move them to a C code product and federate them too. So there are other ways to bring the other systems in. So getting the migration assistant tool. It's on our website. We keep everything on our website. Some things are a little hard to find just because we do have so much on our website. So I always tell people to Google exactly what you're looking for: product system requirements, supported hardware, whatever it is. But in this case, it is on the standard downloads page, and you'll want to go to an E-code product. So in this case, I'm showing XProtect Professional, and then down at the bottom, it's clearly named Migration Assistant Tool. You'll download that and then install that, run it rather, on any E-code system that you want to migrate into a C-code system. And that's what I'm going to show some screenshots of today. There is some advanced capability of the tool to run it on one machine and migrate multiple systems from that. That's a little more complicated, and it is referenced and explained in the documentation, which can be downloaded here. So this one's a little bit more elusive, if you will. So it's still under XProtect Professional, under Manuals and Guides. So at the top, change it from Software to Manuals and Guides. And then down at the bottom, it says XProtect VMS Products System Migration Guide. So it's not clearly, labeled Migration Assistant Tool documentation, but that's what this is. So importing the professional system into C code. So E code and C code were largely internal terms that we use to refer to these different engines. And externally, we referred to them as professional and advanced. So you'll see some interchangeability used between terms there, especially when you're looking at documentation and downloads of the installers. So if you see a quote unquote professional system, it might not be referring to just professional. It might be referring to, say, Express or professional, or if you're going way back, maybe even enterprise. So the existing E-code system configurations can be migrated. So you're going to bring in your hardware devices, cameras, encoders, things of that nature, users, and views. So none of that has to be reconfigured. It makes it quick and easy. There are a few requirements, though. Number one, the older professional E-code systems must be 2014 or newer, running Windows 8.1 or Server 2012 or later. And the hardware devices that you're bringing over must be supported on C code. So this is something that probably won't come into play, but it does on occasion. So just be aware. While Milestone supports about 8,300 devices, there are about 200 or so, 200 to 300 that are very, very, very old and only supported on E code. That's just basically because by the time we started creating C code, those devices were so old at that time, we didn't bother creating device drivers for them. So those, so just check the supported hardware list. Make sure your devices are supported. There's a 99% chance that they will be. Just as a kind of a fun thing, I pulled this in here. So this is the antique hardware, just a snippet of some of the devices. I pulled the manual on one of these, and I think the date was 1999 or something, and it was funny because it had a stamp on it that said year 2000 compliant. It was a big deal back then. So anyway, very old stuff. It is documented. If you have questions, let us know. So these are the things that are not migrated. So your camera recording settings, basically where if you want to create different storage configuration profiles, things like that. It will go to a default configuration for that recording server that you put it on. But as far as your retention, things like that, you'll want to set that up. Scheduling, maps, alarms, and events, they don't come over. And then any historic alarms and events don't come over. And that's because basically the event server is being separated, replaced, or written. As an overview goes, first thing we're going to do is install a new C code system. And once we have that system up in place, we're going to run the migration assistant tool on each C code system you want to merge into that C code system. And that's important because in the old days with E code, and some of you may still be in the old days if you're still running E-code. So sorry, forgive me for that. But basically, on the E-code systems, each system was managed by itself, and now you want one system that's going to manage all of your servers. So if you have multiple E-code systems, basically we're going to run that on all of them, and then merge them all into one video management system that's easily managed. And then after your retention policy, 30 days or 60 days, whatever you use, has passed, then we can decommission that old system either by unplugging the server, taking it out, or if we're running on the same hardware, by uninstalling the E-code system and then reinstalling the event server. That's a necessary step because the event server is actually the same between the two platforms, even though there are different data sets. It shares the same event server, so we need to reinstall it. So when you're migrating from E code to C code, you have to look at a couple of different options. If your hardware is as old as the software, it would probably make sense to replace the hardware with new hardware, and have a fresh start. New hardware, new software. Everything's golden. But if you just recently replaced your hardware, it may not make sense. And it is pros and cons of each, but you can use the existing hardware simply by changing the port of the E-code system. Typically, this is changed from port 80 to 81, and then install C code on the same system. And then again, just a mention of the event server having to be reinstalled if you are doing this all in one box. The best way, obviously, if money's no object, new hardware, separate systems, there's no downtime, everything's nice and clean, and you can actually get both systems up and running at the same time just to ensure that everything is working and good to go before you actually transition your over to the new system. So just a quick walkthrough here. Obviously for a webinar, I'm taking the safe route. But basically we're going to do some screenshots just to show you kind of what this looks like. It is a real migration assistant. It's a tool. It's not in the past we had some documentation on migration and whatnot, and it was kind of a cop out just saying, hey, install C code and then reinstall your system and add all your users and add all your cameras. Easy peasy, right? But now we've actually done that. So now you can actually run this tool. What it does is it prompts you to authenticate to the C code system. So you're going to log into your C code management server with the host name or IP address, whatever authentication you use, whether it's basic or Windows. And then once you get logged in, then you can move your devices. So you can select which devices you want to move from the E code system. And then you can choose which recording server on your C code system you want to move it to. So it's pretty robust and makes life easy. So devices is the first of the three things that get transitioned. The second is users. So some small systems, this isn't a big deal, but in larger systems where you have hundreds of users, this is a big deal. So you can actually choose which users you want to migrate from the old system to the new system, and then choose which role those users get moved into. So again, quick and easy is the key here. And last but not least, somebody spent hours creating all of these views in the system. Rather than losing all of that and having to start over, your views from the E-code systems can now be migrated into view groups on this E-code system. And you can quickly choose which one it goes into. And then during the migration, it's going to automatically get repopulated. Well, I know that was quick, but if you have any additional questions or concerns, please reach out to your channel business manager or regional SE, and they'll be happy to point you in the right direction and answer any questions you might have. Happy Friday, and have a great weekend. Thank you.